Day 4. When your heart is tired. I'm Avery, and welcome to Daily Grace. This season, we are walking through a series called Trust, a steady return to God. Trust does not grow through pressure, it grows through steadiness. Day by day, we return to the quiet truth that God remains faithful. There are seasons when the heart simply feels tired, not broken, not overwhelmed, just tired. The kind of tired that settles in quietly after carrying a lot for a long time. Sometimes that tiredness comes from waiting. Sometimes it comes from disappointment. Sometimes it comes from holding together parts of life that feel uncertain. And sometimes the tiredness does not have a clear explanation. You simply notice that your heart feels heavier than it once did. When the heart feels tired, trust can feel harder than it used to. You may wonder if something inside you has changed. You may wonder if you should feel stronger or if you should have more clarity by now. But emotional tiredness is not weakness. It is often a sign that you have been holding more than your heart was meant to carry alone. When people think about rebuilding trust with God, they sometimes imagine effort, trying harder, praying more, understanding more. But the rebuilding of trust often begins somewhere quieter. It begins with rest. Not the kind of rest that fixes everything immediately, but the kind that allows the soul to stop striving for a moment. There is a gentle truth in Scripture that speaks directly to this place. Psalm 62:1 says, "Truly, my soul finds rest in God." Notice the simplicity of that. Not striving, not proving, rest. The soul does not always need solutions first. Sometimes it simply needs a place where it can breathe again. There are moments in life when we realize we have been pushing ourselves to keep going, even though our hearts are tired. Maybe you have experienced a moment like that recently. Perhaps it was late in the evening after a long day. The responsibilities were finished at home for the moment. And as you sat down, you felt a kind of heaviness settle in your chest. Not panic, not crisis, just the weight of everything you've been holding, the things you have been thinking about, the things you are still waiting to understand, the things you wish were different. In moments like that, the instinct is often to keep pushing, to try to figure everything out, to search for answers, to analyze what could have been done differently. But the soul does not heal through constant pressure. It heals through safe places. God's presence is meant to be that kind of place. A place where the heart can stop trying to hold everything together. A place where you are not required to have everything figured out. A place where you can simply sit and breathe. Trust grows differently than we expect. We often think that trust grows through certainty, through clarity, through quick resolution. But many times, trust grows quietly through rest, through returning to God's presence again and again, through remembering that you're not holding your life alone, even when your heart feels tired, even when you do not yet see the outcome, even when the path ahead still feels unclear. God is steady. His presence does not grow distant when you feel emotionally worn out. In fact, those tired places are often where his steadiness becomes easier to notice, because the soul stops striving long enough to rest. There is no pressure today to prove your trust. There is no requirement that you feel strong. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to place the weight you have been carrying back into God's hands. And in that quiet exchange, something gentle begins to happen. Not dramatic, not immediate, but steady. The heart begins to feel a little lighter. Your thoughts begin to slow. Your breathing becomes easier, and trust begins to grow again, quietly, slowly. The tired heart does not need to rush its way back to strength. It simply needs a place where it is safe to rest. And God's presence remains that place. Today can be a small returning, not a big moment, not a turning point you have to force, just a quiet returning, a reminder that your soul can rest and that God is still steady. May you move through this day gently. May you remember that trust does not have to rush. God is steady, and you're still being held. Until next time, this is Avery.